Assalamu alaikum. According to a Global Commission's report on international migration in 2005, the number of international migrants increased from 75 million to 200 million. And 10 years after that, today we see migrants in each and every part of the world. Maybe as doctors treating to our illnesses, or teachers teaching to our kids, or maybe as workers in the construction field or in our households, or maybe promoting our nation to the wider world. Today, their service, their kindness, and their efforts need to be appreciated, encouraged. I'm Muna Nasir, and this is Fourth Estate.
Estos tiempos no han sido buenos para los migrantes. Solamente en el Mediterráneo, cerca de 1 millón de personas han migrado huyendo de los conflictos y del hambre, y miles de ellos han fallecido. La síntesis de esta tragedia es la imagen del cuerpo del pequeño Aylan encontrado en una playa del Mediterráneo. Asimismo, un sentimiento antiinmigrante recorre diversos países y regiones del mundo. Es por estos motivos que en el Día Internacional del Migrante invitamos a una vigilia para recordar a los que ya no están con nosotros.
Todo ser humano que migra de un lugar a otro es porque viene buscando nuevas posibilidades. Cuando uno deja algo, deja a su familia, uno se parte en dos, como digo siempre.
Entendemos que el motivo de toda migración es la búsqueda de una oportunidad, es la búsqueda de una vida mejor.
A los que miran a los migrantes con desprecio, a aquellos que les construyen muros y vallas, a aquellos que los demonizan, a ellos tenemos que despertarlos, que tomen conciencia, que el mundo podría llegar a ser mejor.
Es muy interesante, es muy importante migrar para buscar oportunidades, pero es mucho más importante la vida.
A todos aquellos que quieran migrar y encontrar un nuevo hogar, quiero decirles que es posible, que todo es posible.
Siempre es muy importante ver cuál es el camino que uno escoge para poder salir de su país, y ese camino siempre tiene que ser el camino regular, el camino más seguro.
Este es el momento de ofrecerle a los migrantes canales de movilidad regulares, dignos y seguros. Reconozcamos de esta manera la contribución positiva de los migrantes a los países de origen y de destino.
Abracémonos todos juntos, que seguramente vamos a encontrar salida.
No nos olvidemos que todos somos inmigrados, todos tenemos parte de esta migración.
Cualquier ser humano desde aquí puede ayudar con solamente la voluntad de querer hacerlo.
Por eso, acompáñenos a decir: yo también soy migrante.
Ana Tamara, Ana Mensuria, Ana Muhtaribe.
Mio Mustafa, o senegalés refum, o migrante refum.
Soy Homero, soy chileno y soy migrante.
Yesterday, the 18th of December, we celebrated the International Migrants' Day, the day to remember the refugees and migrants who have lost or have disappeared while trying to reach safe harbor after their journeys across the seas and deserts. Tonight, we'll be in conversation with Ihma Sharif from the Maldives office of the International Organization for Migration. Established in 1951, IOM is the leading intergovernmental organization in the field of migration and works closely with governmental, intergovernmental, and non-governmental partners. With 162 member states, a further 9 states holding observer status and offices in over 100 countries, IOM is dedicated to promoting humane and orderly migration for the benefit of all. It does so by providing services and advice to governments and migrants. IOM works to help ensure the orderly and humane management of migration, to promote international cooperation on migration issues, to assist in the search for practical solutions to migration problems, and to provide humanitarian assistance to migrants in need, including refugees and internally displaced people. The IOM Constitution recognized the link between migration and economic, social and cultural development, as well as to the right of freedom of movement. IOM works in the four broad areas of migration management, which are migration and development, facilitating migration, regulating migration, and forced migration. IOM activities that cut across these areas include the promotion of international migration law, policy debate and guidance, protection of migrants' rights, migration, health, and the gender dimension of migration. Welcome to Fourth Estate.
Thank you for having me.
So first of all, I would like to ask you, how would you define migration?
Okay, internationally, migration is defined at its very essence as the movement of a person or a group of persons either across an international border or within a region. Or within a state. Migrants can include categories of economic migrants, irregular migrants, skilled migrants, temporary migrant workers. So essentially anyone who travels for a lengthy period of time and lives in a different country or moves from within the state from one place to the other and cohabits there.
So, according to the categories, is migration encouraged in Maldives?
I wouldn't say encouraged is the correct word. I'm not saying that it's discouraged in the Maldives. I would say that the Maldives definitely welcomes migrants into our community, considering that the Maldives has a number of migrant workers and a number of migrants who work and live here, who are diverse in range, who have professions from ranging from labourers to resort owners, and in between, who are teachers, doctors, nurses. I would say that we have a number of migrants who live in this community and who are certainly welcomed by the Maldivian community as well.
Well, established in 1951, I think IOM plays a very significant role in the migration crisis. Can you please tell us some more about the organization?
Yes, the International Organization for Migration is now, as of April 2015, 162 member state organization with 9 observer states and NGOs who are also have observer status within our organization. The International Organization for Migration works within 4 broad areas of migration management. This is migration and development, facilitating migration, regulating migration, and addressing forced migration. Some of our cross-cutting activities include the promotion of international migration law, the policy debate and guidance, protection of migrants' rights, migration health, and gender dimension of migrants. One of the main things that we do is we provide technical expert advice and technical assistance to our member states.
Well, as you work in the Maldivian Office of International Organization for Migration, what is the role of IOM in Maldives?
Okay. The International Organization for Migration began its work with the Republic of the Maldives when it became a member state in 2011. Since then, we have been implementing several projects in the Maldives. First of all, we assisted with the government with technical expert and advice on migration management, and we do that in all aspects and in all areas that the government requests us to do so. We have assisted the government in implementing border control management facilities. One of our main projects that we're currently implementing is the Comprehensive Action to Combat Trafficking in Persons in the Maldives, and that's currently in phase 2 of its work here in the Maldives. Another project that we're implementing is the pre-departure health screening assessment for Bangladeshi migrant workers. As you know, that there are a large number of Bangladeshi migrant workers who come to the Maldives, and in assistance with IOM Bangladesh, IOM Maldives, we work with the Ministry of Health and the Department of Immigration and Emigration to implement this project. The other projects that we have are, one of them is migration, environment and climate change. We're currently focusing and researching on the impacts, the environmental impacts and climate-induced migration possibilities in the Maldives. It's a regional project that is being done in conjunction with Bangladesh and Nepal, looking at the vulnerabilities due to the impacts of climate change and how this will impact on human mobility and might have effects on migration within state or cross-border. The final project that we're going to be starting from next year is a migration profile. So we are going to be looking at mapping out the paths and patterns for migrants who are coming into the country and who are also leaving the country, the issues they face, and this is going to be a policy-based document with very much intensive research that's going to be done, hopefully in order to assist the government in creating better migration policies for the future.
Well, yesterday, the 18th of December, we celebrated the International Day of Migration. So, how important is it to celebrate or mark such a day?
It's very important to observe International Migrants Day, and it's done so around the world in different countries with various different activities. It's to commemorate the protection and promotion of migrant workers' rights and migrants' rights across the world, and also a celebration of the diversity and recognition of the social and economic benefits that migrants bring to our social and economic development of a country, of their host country. Especially this year, the International Organization for Migration and our partners across the world, we're observing the loss of lives and the livelihoods that were spent with the migrant crisis, the European migrant crisis that occurred this year.
There must be some reasons why migrants have to migrate. So, what are the main reasons that the migration occurs?
There are a number of factors that occur when it comes to migration, or the choice, whether it be a choice to migrate or if it's not a choice at all. So if you want to look at, say, migration as a matter of choice, people migrate in search of better opportunities, whether it be for education or for employment, for a better life in a different country, and the social and economic opportunities that are gained from migration. Some of the forced migration possibilities are whether they're fleeing from conflict or from worse situations in their countries, and they wish to move across for a better life in another country.
Well, there's an old saying that we will never be able to understand a situation if we never hear about it, if we never saw it, or if we never felt it. So let's hear about some of the migrants talking about their journeys.
I think my name is very unusual to Germans. Ahmed should maybe look darker or smaller, or gold chains. I look very German, so why is your name Ahmed? A lot of people are scared of immigrants because they just don't know immigrants. They don't talk to them. I like it most when they just ask, and why not ask?
Ich heiße Fatima, ich komme aus Syrien. Ich bin Ronja, ich bin hier in Berlin-Pankow geboren. Jetzt sind wir viel so eine Freundschaftsklicke mit vielleicht ein Jahr. Oder gar nicht. Nein, 8 Monate ungefähr. Okay, stimmt. Anna Muhajira, ich bin Migrantin. I'm a migrant. Noch einmal, dass Leute aus verschiedenen Ländern hier sind. Sie kommen doch aus Schweden, oder?
Sie kommt aus Brasília. Eu sou migrante.
Eu sou migrante. Eu sou migrante.
You know, Germany, everything is programmed. Topic language is really very fundamental. When you say, hey, you know, like, you have to make a point there to go and see your friend. And this doesn't happen with Uganda, no. I know a lot of fellas here, and they think if you're black here, you attract as refugees. Good dancers, you know. Sometimes what we were told before might not be the right information to work on.
We are from Syria. I have 4 children.
When we get into the boats, they cry that, "Mommy, I don't want to sit in the air." So we encourage them. No, it's nothing. It's just playing. It's just playing. We are just playing with boats. Here's the place we could find fishes, little fishes.
I lost my children here in the sea. I lost my children.
Because I want some place good. Me and my good.
Welcome back. You're watching Fourth Estate and we're in conversation with Ihmar Sharif. Well, the biggest humanitarian crisis that the world faced this year after the terrorism is, I'm sure, the European migrant crisis. And as an international organization, what are your concerns for the matter?
Okay. With reference to the European Mediterranean migrant crisis this year, it was estimated in November of this year that there were 167,000 refugees seeking shelter in various countries. And the International Organization for Migration is supporting governments currently in preparing for the harsh winter that is currently occurring in Europe. We're providing temporary shelters to assist. We're trying to assist governments in providing healthcare and health assistance and facilitating those sorts of measures for the safety and protection of migrants and refugees and displaced persons who are awaiting migration and resettlement into a different country. At reception points for migrants and refugees, we assist in registration and identification of migrants. We facilitate support and the data collection that can be fed into evidence-based policy. So this can shape the policy of the nations who accept refugees and displaced persons as well. We also assist in the resettlement of a number of refugees that are currently awaiting resettlement. For an example, I can take Canada. We're working with our partners, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights and other partners in resettling 250,000 refugees who are awaiting resettlement in Canada, from Syrian refugees who are awaiting resettlement from Lebanon, Jordan and Turkey.
Well, today I think human trafficking can be referred as a crisis, which is increasing day by day. What are the acts that can be considered as human trafficking?
The definition for human trafficking comes from the UN Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime and the protocol, which is referred to as the Palermo Protocol 2000, or the TIP Protocol as we call it, under that convention. And so the definitions basically talk about the prevention and suppression and punishment of trafficking in persons. So this is the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harbour or receipt of persons by means of coercion, abduction or fraud or deception, of abuse of power, of a position of vulnerability, of giving or receiving benefits for the purpose of exploitation. And when we talk about exploitation, the definition shall include things like sexual exploitation, forced labour or services, practices similar to slavery or what we call modern day slavery, domestic servitude or removal and harvesting of organs.
Well, how is the process carried out here once a case of human trafficking is reported?
In the Maldives, we have ratified an act, which is the Prevention of Human Trafficking Act 2013. So that came into effect, and there are certain measures and regulations under that. The government has also recently joined together. There's a National Steering Committee under the Act, and they have approved a victim identification guideline. Under the Act, the first step is if someone reports a case of a victim that is being trafficked, or if there's a suspicious activity of trafficking, this is initially reported to the police, and the police conduct the investigations in order to identify whether a victim is being trafficked or is a victim of trafficking. So this could be the examples that I told you before of forced labor, withholding of passports, withholding of wages, debt bondage, domestic servitude, sex trafficking. These are all things that are occurring and can be investigated under the Act. After that, after the police have identified a victim, they get a 90-day protection period under the Act. The Ministry of Economic Development takes the lead role along with the Maldives Police Services and the Department of Immigration and Immigration in the protection of the victim, along with assisting the victim and preparing for example, if the victim wishes to carry out prosecution for their perpetrators, then this can also be done, and those sorts of procedures are carried out. These are all very clearly outlined in the 2013 Prevention of Human Trafficking Act.
Well, talking about Maldives, I don't think we normally do hear about human trafficking and the issues and the consequences of it normally. But does that mean that our country does not have the issue as much as others?
I think there are some issues that we do hear about on a day-to-day basis, but we don't consider them trafficking as such, or we don't consider this as such an organized crime, or that they fall into that category. So often we hear stories of migrant workers with their wages being withheld, or the practice of migrant workers, their identifications documents being destroyed or withheld so they cannot travel back to their countries, or forced labor, exploitation conditions. Sometimes we hear stories about that as well. Some of the unheard stories perhaps would be, for example, sex trafficking and issues surrounding that as well. I think trafficking is a very complex and difficult issue to identify, as well as to investigate, as well as for a victim also to even know that they are a victim of trafficking. We estimate that 75% of victims who are trafficked or victims of trafficking, actually they don't feel that they are victims of trafficking because they have been so psychologically influenced by their perpetrators that they believe that they've been conducting illegal activities as well. But often they are victims of trafficking, and we should look at ensuring their protection as well. So there are lots of things that we need to do in terms of identifying victims. So people who are brought here under forceful conditions and things like that. And there are several other challenges that are faced when it comes to human trafficking, because this isn't just something that happens within the nation. This is a cross-border issue. So people are brought here from different countries. Maldives is a destination country for trafficking. There aren't very many victims of trafficking who are Maldivians who are in other countries. So they're brought here into the country, and often with the cooperation of, say, agents or other third parties, and sometimes they might flee back to that country after they've conducted the exchange also. And so it's often very difficult to investigate these cases. So those are just some of the challenges that we face. With regards to sex trafficking cases, I think that's also a very hidden issue in our society, but certainly one that needs closer examination, and certainly something that we need to have a bigger conversation about.
Well, I'm sure as humans we all have our own rights.
Absolutely.
And as migrants they would have some other rights as well. What are the rights of migrants?
Well, human rights are universal, and therefore we cannot differentiate, like you said very well, that every person is a human being. So their right to dignity and all of those things matter when it comes to a migrant, whether they be a migrant or anybody else, you know, for that matter. When it comes to migrants, we can discuss some of the basic human rights that should be afforded to them in any country. Certainly they come to the Maldives or in any country based on that country's laws in accordance with their employment laws, their immigration laws, and etc., etc. But basic things should be afforded to them, such as shelter, such as the right to correct wages, such as the right to be working in the area that they've been promised or contractually obligated to be working in, such as other things, access to healthcare, and the right to be treated fairly and equally in society as well.
Well, whenever we talk about the rights, I'm sure we have to talk about the responsibilities as well. What
Absolutely.
are the responsibilities of the employees, especially focusing to the migrants?
Some of the main responsibilities of the employers are to ensure that migrant workers that they employ get things like their wages on time, that they fulfill the contractual obligations of these migrant workers. That, for example, we hear many stories about migrant workers who are promised one area of work, but when they come to the Maldives, they're actually engaging in a different area of work. And that actually hinders a migrant's rights to development and also their economic development, because you're putting them into a different skilled area than the skill set that they already have. So those are some of the obligations that are on the employer. Other obligations upon the employer are very clearly outlined under the Immigration Act and the Employment Act as well, and those are rights, those are the obligations that the employers must fulfill.
Well, there's still more to come. Please stay tuned with us. We'll be right back after this short break.
Neutro Special Crackers eta bike itibar hoda pave. Varam mir. Neutro Special Crackers ki packet gagin adada ka biskode kuleve agiya miru biskode. Varak kamada biskode. Binda binda kala Neutro Special Crackers.
Ivoen anakka startup kurani German vilatuge molu ufedumekkamavva Peridot brand ge ekivattaruge sali laminate paake carpet adi fenuge asaru kuratantana hasa vinyl flooring west rajye mulin installation mechanism maaku miharu Evo flooring gun liben hunnana tiris first rufiyan peshige akafute site measurement naga install koddinuge hidume west miha rajyen liben hori emme quality aguheo flooring ale saliyen nunta
Snickers. It's got nuts, chocolate, and caramel to fill that hunger on the go. Grab it, rip it, chew it, yeah. Hungry? Grab a Snickers.
Now grab a fantastic new pack of 5s for just ₹50.
Higgam do hedda. Coffee bola. Sali gadiyan. Kike bolani.
Do?
Fini coffee enna wala tangalu dis. Mabune chengono da.
Ice coffee enno.
ಅವಸ್ಕಮಕ್ ಫಿನಿಕೊದ್ದೆ ಕರೆಂಟ್ ಖರದು ಕೂಡ ನಿಕಾಯಿ ಬ್ರೆಂಡ್ ಎಸಿ ಗೆ ಫಿನಿಕಮ ಮೊಳಕ ತಜ್ರಿಬಾ ಕೊಲ್ಲಮ ಎಹಾ ಫಿನಿ ಎಹಾ
ಹುನು ಕೊಫಿನ ದಿಬ್ಲಾತ
Well, in 2013, the Anti-Human Trafficking Act was ratified by the President of Maldives. And what are the roles of IOM in terms of assisting to implement this act?
I refer to our one of our main projects, which is the Comprehensive Action to Combat Trafficking in Persons in the Maldives. And we work very closely with all of the stakeholders involved in trafficking in the Maldives with regards to providing training. So the International Organization for Migration over the past 2 years has trained a number of police officers, immigration officials, Labour Relations Authority officials, Ministry of Economic Development, other officials. We have trained lawyers from the Prosecutor General's Office, the Attorney General's Office as well, to look at the different elements of trafficking and how the nation can combat these issues here as stakeholders invested in it. From the other aspect, we're also conducting trainings in the islands, so looking at training health workers, stakeholders such as the Maldivian Red Crescent, other NGOs, and stakeholders such as I mentioned before, police, immigration, Prosecutor General's Office, etc., along with island councils and atoll councils as well. So we're trying to ensure that we raise awareness on the issue, and officials who are who have the authority to deal with the issue of trafficking in the country are best trained for this. So the International Organization for Migration brings international experts along with our national experts and provides training across board. We're also developing we also provide technical advice and technical assistance to the government in any capacity in which they wish for us to do so. There is a national steering committee which leads the debate and policy advocacy on human trafficking and policy formulation on prevention of trafficking in the country. So we assist that national steering committee. The other thing that we are starting and will be starting to do is creating a lot more awareness in the community about trafficking in persons, so creating dialogues about the issue, raising awareness campaigns to make sure that everybody in society knows that this is something that goes on and this is something that should be stopped and must be punished. So I guess the main areas that we do work in terms of trafficking is to prevent trafficking, the protection of victims of trafficking. So we also assist the Maldives Police Services and other organizations, including the embassies and high commissions, if there are victims of trafficking, if they require return and reintegration assistance into another country, we assist with that as well. We also assist in providing technical advice should the government need it on prosecution, and those are the main areas.
Well, looking at the migrant statistics, we see that the number of women and children are comparatively high compared to the men. Why do you think so?
I don't know if I necessarily agree with you on that. I'd say that perhaps it seems to be that there are a lot of migrant women and children when it comes to refugees or displaced persons. So those are the people who are, first of all, who need and require protection when they're fleeing from conflict. When it comes to males, I would say that there are a lot of migrants who are males who travel from one country to another to seek better economic opportunities, to provide livelihoods for their families back home as well. And I don't think we can discriminate and say that migration or migrants are of the category of just women or men. I think there is an equal number of migrants who are male and female.
Well, as an international organization for migrants, I'm sure you must have heard about the real stories from the migrants itself. So what do you think are the main challenges that the NGOs or the governments of member states are having in solving the human trafficking issues and reducing the number of people who are the victims?
Some of the main challenges that are faced in the country, I would say the biggest challenge that is faced in the country is raising awareness in our community that human trafficking exists, and it's a problem that needs to be addressed. And so NGOs and government institutions alike can work together to address this challenge of raising awareness. NGOs work together in the Maldives at the moment, very much in looking after and protection of migrant workers' rights. They work in a diverse range in the Maldives here as well. And government is formulating policy to try and address the issues of human trafficking.
Well, in the COP21 summit, human mobility was a topic which was discussed. Can you please tell us more about this human mobility?
Human mobility is with reference to climate-induced migration, and we're very pleased to note that the dialogue for climate migrants and climate migration was included in the discussions during the COP21. These are things that Maldivians will face and have faced with regards to land erosion, tidal swells, and other effects of climate change occurring in the country. So when we are looking at addressing migration and climate change issues, we're looking at displacement induced by climate change. Environment-related planning needs to take into effect now, and climate migration is sort of putting the human face into the conversation about climate change.
Well, awareness can play an important role in reducing the victims of human trafficking. Do you think, or do you believe that the public is aware enough about the situation?
I think the public, some people are aware of this issue, but perhaps don't have a greater understanding, or don't know where to go for assistance and help. In this instance, I also want to encourage all of the members of the public who are watching to share with everybody that there is in the Maldives a dedicated hotline for trafficking instigated by the Maldives Police Services. The number for that hotline is 9500125. 9500125 is the number that anyone can call to find out more information about human trafficking and to report cases of trafficking in the country.
But what would be your message for the public?
I guess my message for the public, or from the International Organization of Migration's perspective, is that each and everyone in society can contribute to the protection and promotion of migrants' rights. We can help migrants move safely and legally, and we can celebrate the diversity that migrants bring to our society.
Well, that's all we have for tonight's Fourth Estate, but before concluding, we'll be bringing you the message of the International Organization of Migration's Director General on the International Day of Migrants. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. We'll be right back next week.
We have seen some dark days in our world this year. In 2015, we have witnessed acts of sickening violence, the fury of nature, and perhaps most poignant of all, the corpse of the baby boy, Aylan Kurdi, face down on the Mediterranean beach, one of many thousands of migrants who died along the way to a new life. But while the world is full of darkness, it is not surprising that so many cultures have created festivals of light. For example, Hindus recently celebrated Diwali, and last month was Loy Krathong in Southeast Asia, where candles were afloat to offer thanks. Soon it will be the holiday season for much of the Western world. There again, lights are already twinkling everywhere from Central Park to Bundy Beach. In Ireland, a nation which fled poverty, war, and famine, there is a tradition of placing a candle in the window during the holiday season to remember the immigrants who now live far away. It is ironic, perhaps, that this tradition is now so apt as families from the Middle East still seek a safe haven. As an issue, migration defined the year 2015. It was the year of the migrant. It was a year of mass and rapid population movement, a typhoon in Vanuatu, an earthquake in Nepal, a war in Syria, abuse in a number of other countries, with some 1 million migrants arriving by boat in Europe, fleeing war, poverty, persecution. The world was in foment and flux, from the mountains to the deserts to the oceans. In an ignorant panic, sections of media and society have sought to paint migration as a social evil, a divider of families and communities, a spawning ground for fanaticism. For the first time in many decades of watching, commenting, and leading thought on migration, I, for one, have begun to worry. I see an anti-migrant sentiment beginning to seethe. I see political malaise, an absence of courage, leadership, and a paucity of moral sensitivity. I see a one-sided debate focusing on fear, negativity, and security. Where are the smiles of welcome from last summer? Where are the banners in football grounds declaring migrants welcome? I know they are there, and I know they will be seen again when we gather in cities and towns across the globe with candles of solidarity. The common sense and generosity of ordinary people, of communities made up of migrants and non-migrants, people of all shades of color, politics, and piety, that is what sustains me. I truly believe that communities will continue to open their hearts and arms to embrace the tired and the oppressed. While some national leaders may cavil, the United Nations, informed by a global grassroots debate, has drawn a line under the importance of migration in its blueprint for human development over the next 15 years, the Sustainable Development Goals, Agenda 2030. Migration is now firmly on the global agenda. The first United Nations side event on migration took place this year, led by the Secretary General himself. The summit in Malta in November brought African and European leaders together for the first time around the issue of migration. In Asia, governments have gathered to seek a regional solution to their migration crisis in the Andaman Sea. Canada's new government has sounded a clarion call, accepting 25,000 Syrian refugees in a rapid, regulated, and welcome mass intake. I have often described our time as a perfect storm of humanitarian emergencies which feature in today's unprecedented human mobility. Almost 1 out of every 7 persons on this earth, more than 1 billion people, in some way are migrants. But almost 60 million of these are what we call desperation migrants or distress migrants, forcibly removed from their homes and the places they grew up. Millions of others are migrants seeking opportunity in other countries or elsewhere within their own countries, just as any one of us would. It has simply become convenient for many to use the fear of terrorism as an excuse to do nothing to help these folks. This disheartens me. But now is the time for safe, secure, and legal migration throughout the world. Many have been arguing for a long time that to address the issues around human mobility, we require the management of migration with security for all involved. We must recognize that migration is the mega trend of our time, and we need to treat it with seriousness, not smears, if we're going to get anywhere. Migrants are moving, and we need them just as much as they need us. But the world needs leadership in order to manage it in a safe, secure, and legal manner. It's high time for mature societies to show that they'll do what it takes for the marriage to work. So, yes, there is darkness, but we all have a little light. If it was shone before, let it shine again and keep shining.